talk about more about cloud native development with Red Hat, OpenShift, and Backstage. Um, I think many people might be aware of what Backstage is, how OpenShift works, and in this demo, we are going to talk about how the entire developer experience can be enhanced for the entire team and the entire company as a whole. So a brief introduction about me, as I've already been introduced. I'm Mohit Suman. I work out of Bangalore. I am working at Red Hat for past 10 years. I work as a senior product manager in developer experience and look around multiple portfolios from cloud native development experience to AI developer experience currently. And this is my LinkedIn and Twitter. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to engage and discuss more on it. So let's move ahead and discuss what is the right point, what we are focusing on. The idea here is if a developer is happy, the productivity increases multiple times. And when we say multiple times, there are two factors which determine it. One is the cost reduction of the company, and other one is the revenue generated of the company. Given the market situation, everyone is aware of how economy is affected, how companies are trying to be more productive given the amount of resources they have. And when I talk about resources, these are the developers who are going to define your company's workflow. And as I always say in multiple places, that developers are the real kingmakers here. And this is where we are going to target. And in the demos coming forward, you will see how those getting expanded. Let's say when we talk about developer experience, what does it exactly mean to our customers? When we go to a customer, we don't want them to figure out multiple tools and discuss, oh, how to deploy this application, how to work with this code, what is my favorite ID. Multiple tools are there, and given the expansion of the tools we have currently, in every 1 or 2 months, we have new technologies coming up, and a developer has to be very much on their foot to learn and understand what's the latest thing, right? For example, if you're working on AI, in the next 3 months, let's say Meta will come up with a new open source model, or some other company will come with a new open source model, or Red Hat deploys a new workflow where you can work with AI. So you as a developer will always have to understand and learn more technologies and more workflows. So how to encapsulate them into one portfolio? So two stuffs there, right? As a developer, one of the advantage you have to understand and decide that my main task is to write code. And as a platform engineer, I want to be a developer's developer. What that does mean is you have to deploy your code on Red Hat OpenShift, and that code deployed on OpenShift will allow you to work with multiple cloud native code enhancements. This is a small overview. What I'm going to demo in the next session is how you can run your application on top of Backstage, working with your IDs that can be Visual Studio Code or IntelliJ, and deploy your code on OpenShift. And when I say OpenShift, that OpenShift can be running on on-prem and private cluster, or it can be running on OpenShift on Azure, OpenShift on AWS. So any hybrid cloud infrastructure will be supported out of the box. This slide is very much beneficial to understand what's the exact developer flow of a entire developer strategy is. The starting is you have to decide that what's your trial and onboarding tool. You as a developer have to understand, okay, if I want to try a cloud native environment, do I have a cluster to test on? And this is where Red Hat comes into picture, and they give you multiple scenarios to test your clusters. Those are trial versions valid for 30 days. It's completely free. You can go and provision your sandbox cluster, which will be running OpenShift, the latest version of OpenShift. And you can also go to Red Hat Developer Hub. You can just install all those components there. I will talk more detail in Red Hat Developer Hub going forward to make you understand what exactly that is. But let's say your trial and onboarding is taken care. The next step is you as a developer have to write your code. And that entire scenario is known as inner loop. When I say inner loop, the first step is you write your code in your IDE, whichever you select, VS Code, IntelliJ, or Eclipse. Then you deploy your code. For deployment, let's say you're using Podman Desktop. You're deploying your application, writing your code, and building on your images using Podman Desktop. Debugging your application. For example, right now I've used Quarkus. You can use Node.js or any application you want to. Are you comfortable with Java? Are you comfortable with Python? Whatever works for you. And then you complete the entire loop for writing your code, debugging, testing, everything is working. Once you're satisfied with that, then you move to the outer loop scenario. When I say outer loop scenario, that takes care of two stuffs. One is deploying of that code to a cloud cluster. That can be OpenShift, that can be a locally running OpenShift cluster, or that can be any version of your cluster running on a private cloud. Once that code is deployed, you review that code, you build that code, and you continue that outer loop cycle as needed. And once everything is taken care of, then you deploy your cluster code to the cluster which is running on Red Hat OpenShift. So let's say what is the challenge, right? For example, I'm a new developer, I'm joining an organization, and I have been told by my company, let's build an application. Looks very simple, right? What I should do? Okay, I grab my favorite editor, I just write my code. Great. It doesn't stop there, right? I have to understand that, okay, for that, do I need to have a container image? Do I need to have a container registry where I put all those my containers? So the complexity you see will keep on increasing as you go forward. It's not that simple, right? Then you have to understand, oh, there are too many YAML files. I have to understand how those files work. Oh, I need a CI/CD build. How to understand that? Then I need, okay, everything is taken care and I have to deploy to a repository so my other development team can use it. So things keep on making complexities, more YAMLs and all, and eventually you reach out to a state where you have, okay, the entire plethora of CNCF technologies, right? Which you as a developer have to understand to make sure your code runs perfectly on your local environment or also on a production cluster. And this is where we have seen, this is how the cloud native computing strategy was. This is how it started long time back with a very subset of technologies under multiple portfolios. But right now, if you see the entire landscape, for every specific, for CI/CD, you have multiple tools. For other cloud native, you have multiple tools. And every day we are seeing a lot of new projects getting onboarded on CNCF as a different strategies, right? For CI/CD, build, pipelines, whatever it is. Now, if as you as an organization have this inconsistent onboarding process, a new developer who joins your company, if he needs to understand all these terminologies, it might take him months and all, and that onboarding process will delay you. And basically, it will be frustrating for the new developer and also a loss of revenue for the entire company. So this is where we introduce in developer platforms, which is basically based on top of Backstage. So Backstage is an open source CNCF project which allows you to work and create your IDPs. And Red Hat has a product based built on top of it, which is known as Red Hat Developer Hub. Important factors here is this IDP will allow you to have a single pane of glass where there'll be a single dashboard which can be used by your operations team, security team, your PMs, your QE. So let's say you as a product manager goes and give them a criteria. The guys, I need these features by end of Friday. Your development team starts writing it, and on Thursday they have only completed 2 of them and 3 of them are missing, right? So you as a PM can still see everything on the single dashboard. The dev team can see similarly on the same dashboard, and even the QA team can verify, okay guys, I have verified 2 of them, and once you move it to on review, I'll again do a QA test. So everything under one roof. So you as a company can verify that what the stage of the developer productivity for the entire team into one dashboard, so that you don't have to worry about multiple scenarios. Let's say I am deploying my application using CI/CD using GitHub Actions or Azure Pipelines or Tekton or Argo CD, whatever it is, right? So you as a developer have to learn multiple stuffs, and some dashboards can be in different places. So everything will be collected together, and there will be one tab which is a CI tab, and inside that same CI tab, you will find all the experiences together. So that way enhances everything. So as I mentioned, we are working on top of an upstream open source project which is known as Backstage.io. Just a quick question is, how many of you are aware of Backstage? Great. So this is going to be a good session then. I think most of people know about it. So as I said, the importance here of Backstage is, as a developer, I'm confused because I have to understand multiple things. But when I use Backstage, this will allow me to have this single dashboard where I can see my Argo CD build, I can see my Tekton, I can see how my Git issues are being created. I can also see my repository view that, okay, which pods are created, if it's getting deployed on OpenShift, and if I'm using GitLab or GitHub, all those scenarios will be taken care in the same dashboard. Now, when I say these scenarios will be taken care, the question arises, how is that possible, right? So Backstage has a concept which is known as plugins. So we, as Red Hat, also create multiple plugins and push it to upstream, and even the upstream community also has a lot of plugins for Backstage, which means that if your company is specifically working with, let's say, Jira, so there is a Jira plugin which you can integrate into that dashboard, and you can have all the Jira issues listed in your dashboard. Let's say your company says, guys, I want to integrate with ServiceNow. My company is working with ServiceNow. I need that integration to be done. So there is a plugin specifically for ServiceNow. Okay, someone says, okay, I don't want anything. I just want Azure to be integrated, Azure pipelines, and that should help me with my CI builds. So there are plugins for everything. And if there are no plugins available currently, it's a given upstream project. People can contribute to it, add to the plugin ecosystem, and that will be reflected in Red Hat Developer Hub and even Backstage. Now, the important part of Backstage and Red Hat Developer Hub here is, We as Red Hat are trying to create plugins which are supported out of the box through Red Hat Developer Hub. So you as a developer or a company can you start using Red Hat Developer Hub and get an enterprise support for that workflow. So that way, if there are any security patches or any specific workflow improvement, Red Hat will provide you the streamline support for that. Then comes the important concept which are known as software catalog. So in my demo, I will be focusing more on what software catalog is all about. And this is how the entire disparate systems will be integrated together with the plugins and software catalog all together. So as I mentioned, we are very much committed to the open source workflow. If you might be aware, Red Hat has been the leading contributor to all the open source projects, and we contribute a lot to Backstage. We are actively involved with improving the Backstage ecosystem, and this is where Red Hat Developer Hub is trying to empower all the developers to start using that product. Okay, so this is a simple hierarchy what we have with Red Hat Developer Hub currently. It's based on Backstage. So it has a specific open source platform where you can build your developer platforms. It supports multiple deployments that you can run this on OpenShift container platform, or you can run on any managed OpenShift cluster, let's say IBM Cloud or Azure or GCP, and it can be also be run on GKE and AKS. Now, once your platform developer portal is created, the next comes what are the plugins what we can improve. So as I said, Red Hat Developer Hub has its own set of plugins which are supported out of the box by Red Hat, and it also works with all the community plugins which comes with Backstage. So you have a plugin for GitHub, you have a plugin for GitLab, you want to have with SonarQube or Argo CD. Any type of plugin which you need for your development experience can be integrated into your portal. So let's get to the game part. So right now I will be demoing how Backstage will work, and based on that I will be deploying an application where we'll be playing a small simple game. This is how the game would look. You need to have your phone and you need to scan your QR code, and based on that you can play a game. We'll be deploying an application where you a Quarkus application where we'll have two teams, and we can just get started with the code there. So let's get to how Backstage works. So this is my Backstage environment. I hope you guys can see this, right? Should look good. Okay, let's just zoom this. Okay. So this is the Backstage environment which I have already deployed, which is running on top of OpenShift. So it's already deployed there. Now this Backstage, if you go here and see create, this will basically allow you to see what templates are currently available. So let's say there is a new joinee in your company and he wants to understand how the workflow of the company exactly works, how a deployment works, what type of images they need, and how to understand that. So you as a team can create a software template and just deploy to your Backstage instance or Developer Hub instance, and that will be available onto your templates. How to do that? So you go here and do register new component, and based on that you can provide which GitHub URL you need to have, so that because that URL will have all the template file, all the YAMLs defined, and based on that it will take care of everything. It will import all the actions and it will create a component there. So for the demo purpose I have already created a component. So this is a wind turbine game which I showcased which we're doing. So this is basically an Quarkus application which uses Kafka to manage all the deployments there. So if you go ahead and do, okay, what should be the name? You just do demo GIDS. This is a description. What is the cluster it is going to be deployed on? I am going to deploy this on top of OpenShift. The cluster is already up and running for the demo purposes. So you deploy that. Okay, it cannot have this. So let's do this. Then you can provide the image registry. So let's say you are working in a bank or you are working in a disconnected environment where you cannot allow outside connection to those image registries deployed locally. So you can provide those link of image registry, and that will be automatically taken. Right now for the demo, I'm just using a query registry. I can provide the host name, I can provide which organization it needs to look, and I can provide what is the latest tag. So let's say I want to deploy version 2.0 only. I don't want to do version 2.1. I can just specify which tag it needs, and it just goes there. And then what is the GitLab repository I'm using, or what is the GitHub repository I'm using, who's the owner of the repository, and even I can check that, I can verify that, okay, do those pushes or commits coming from the authenticated source. So we can verify with the signed authority on the Git commits. So if we do verify commits as enabled, it will, whenever do a push, it will in the back end, it will run a trusted software supply chain. It will verify whether it's coming from the signed authority or not. and then it will say, okay, it's coming through, then it will deploy that deployment. If not, it will fail. For the demo purpose, I'm just doing it disabled so that it works. And then you do review. Once you review that, okay, everything looks good and all, then you can just go ahead and create. A creation might took like 4 to 5 minutes, but we'll skip that. That's already created. So once the creation happens, what happens is you go to the catalog. Now, the best part of catalog here is you can see multiple deployments happening. So as I've already deployed this game here, game secure, this application is already deployed. So I can click on this and I can see this is a single pane of glass, what I was talking about, right? You can see what is your game. You can open the same repository on your browser. So if I click view source, it will basically open that GitLab instance where the repository, it might be a GitHub instance for the future. So from the same place, I can open the GitLab. I can want to see which pods are getting deployed. So I can go to the topology view and I can just view the pods there. I can see GitHub issues. I can see the PR request with CI/CD pipeline is running. And as soon as you keep on adding multiple plugins to the workflow, it will this tab will keep on increasing. So that it becomes much easier. There are multiple workflows. You can integrate multiple APIs. You can integrate learning paths for your team to understand how those things work. So let's say I have a documentation. I want to understand how to AI modeling works. I want to understand how to deploy a Spring application to OpenShift. So all those learning paths can be also integrated into the same dashboard. Okay, so let's go to this one. So my application is already deployed. So I'll go to catalog again. I go to the topology view and I can see right now here. Let this load. Okay, so I have deployed my game into 3 environments. One is a development environment where I want to test and debug it. One is the pre-prod environment where I want to commit those changes and see everything looks good. And I have made a tag for that release. And as soon as the tag is created, the build starts for the pre-prod production. And when I say everything is good, I need to release it to the production environment. I say product. So there are 3 different pods. I can just go here and see which pods are running for what. Now, let's start with the game, what we have. So if you can just scan this QR code, this should open up a tab in your browser and ask you to select 2 teams. Everyone has done, so should I can move to the dashboard? Okay. So, so once you log into the game, right, it asks you to select 2 teams, either team mountains or team beach, whatever is favorite. If you are a beach person, great. If you're a mountain person, then it's super awesome given the Bangalore weather. So let's go and see this. So this is the dashboard what we have. So let me refresh and see what it says. So I can log into this. Sorry? Okay. You need. So we have 4 minutes. I don't want them to say, okay, guys, done. Great. So you can see the dashboard. This is the same URL where I have deployed my dev instance. I just opened it and I created a pod so that you guys can just sign up to it. And once you sign up, you can see multiple people are already registered. So once I start on display, you have to tap. And once you tap, the car will start running. And whichever team wins the race, the game is done, right? So I'll start in 3. 1, 2, 3. I see few people are running, so great. The more faster you tap, the chances of you winning the game will be much higher. And if you see, the faster you tap, the energy generated is shown there. So more energy generated and more faster your car is. Great. So I think we have a winner. Great. So let's go to Goa. I think Team Beach won the game. So this is how it is. And the best part here is, so let's say my team as a PM, I said, guys, I think I don't want beach and mountain game. I want CSK versus RCB. Well, let's make that change. So what we do there is I just go to the code here. This is the game, right? This is the code here. I can open that code from a Stream dashboard. This is how it is. I can open the same code running on browser using OpenShift dev spaces, or I can open this on my favorite editor running on local like Visual Studio Code or IntelliJ. I can go ahead and make those changes in that code. And as soon as make those changes, do a commit and deploy that code. What happens is this will again start running a pipeline. If you go to the CI instance, it will again start running a pipeline. It will make those changes again, and it will again deploy that code. So as soon as the new code deploys, you don't have to do anything. You just need to refresh that game URL, and you can play the team with RCB versus CSK. So this is how easy development happens with all this single pane of glass with Developer Hub. And you as a company can understand that how the CI/CD is running, how the topology view is there, how easy it is to deploy a code with just one single click. You can open the editor from the same dashboard itself. So it basically improves your entire end-to-end experience. Later on, we have one more session by Kevin. So he will be talking more about in detail how you can do with Tekton and Argo CD. And as I showed you a game with tapping, he will be showing you a game with, you can shake your phone and the same car race can be played. So feel free to attend that talk. And I think this is what my session was all about. So these are some of the materials what we have currently by Red Hat. You can learn more about Red Hat Developer Hub, and you can more about Podman Desktop and multiple IDE extensions what we have for Visual Studio Code and IntelliJ. We have a very huge ecosystem for all those plugins available in the marketplace. So feel free to use it. It's completely free and open source. So try to leverage that. And you can learn more about what we are doing with in the field of OpenShift AI and multiple AI sandbox. So we have a booth outside just at the entrance. So feel free to reach out to us. And if you have any questions, feel free to engage with me. So thank you guys for your time, and really great interacting with you.